Hello all, and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. Today we are going to be tackling the factory section of Borderlands 1's final DLC, Claptrap's Revolution. Now, a couple quick things of note here. This region has a lot of unique circumstances, including, but not limited to, the most ill or weak to corrosion damage enemies in the entire game, and an entire plan based around numbers. Now, I kind of find this funny. In one of the earlier DLCs, the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned, we ended up facing a target, an enemy of sorts that was ever-growing. No matter how much you defeated, there was always going to be more. That was kind of the whole gambit that Dr. Ned had. However, in this case, we have a little bit of a supply and demand problem.
I know a little song. If you'd like to hear it,
The Claptraps have a limited supply. Now, it's not that they're impossible to run them out, but that they are so compatible with absolutely everything around them that the Claptraps start to get, we'll call it overpowered, or what's the word? Overpopulated. That's the wording I'm going to go with. So, your first couple of missions in this DLC have to do directly with taking out the Claptrap army. And it's actually quite a well thought out plan. First and foremost, we have to deal with the fact that the Claptraps are increasing in numbers and have shut down an entire town. This town, not T-Bone Junction, Tartarus Station, is effectively the closest hub to the manufacturing plant that Claptrap is using. So already we have kind of a staple here, right? This manufacturing plant needs all the power, so they take it from the city. Once the city regains power, we have to deal with the factory. The factory itself is nothing super spectacular. It's unique, it's a good take on the, oh yeah, we're fighting a robotic entity, this just makes sense. But we're also dealing with the fact that these guys have a pseudo-hive mind. They are using the same data complex to defeat the Vault Hunters in a day-to-day basis. This does give the Claptraps a little bit of an edge in terms of how they face off against certain opponents. But by and large, unless you're dealing with multiples of them, it really doesn't do much, and it's more of a lore thing than a gameplay thing. So you're not going to get attacked from behind because the Claptraps don't have much of a brain cell to rub together to begin with. So, hooray there, right? But let's be real. I'm pretty sure you can already tell that this isn't quite going to go to plan. And it all starts with our title. So, the Borderlands No Bullets run. You'll notice it's changed from the No Ammo run. And that's unfortunately intentional. See, today is the end of the No Ammo run. While I'm sure that I might have had a way around it, I got frustrated and I threw a grenade that you will see later on today. And the reality is that that's kind of the point of testing what limitations there are. Because by understanding limitations, you're able to overcome them more easily. But when a limitation is hard-coded, when there is no means to get close to, we'll call it the offending problem, they're really kind of stuck. And that's more or less what happened here. Because I acknowledge that one of the core missions here is to shut down the factory. Something can only be done by shutting down each of the 3 coolant pumps. In and of itself, that's a pretty simple goal. Shut down the coolant, and the factory kind of just blows itself up. But the problem is that when they're in a place that is inaccessible to melee damage, you're left with technically 2 options. Neither of them are very good.
Damn it, Claptrap. I'm a doctor, not a mechanic.
Yeah, mechanics are just robot doctors. You're fine. Get back to work, Dr. Ned. Anyways, the point I want to get at with that is when your target that you're aiming for is outside of the realm of what you can physically access, you're left with minimal options. The first of these minimal options is to use your enemy's abilities to your advantage. Now, sometimes this is really easy. You could stand in the absolute worst spot for your opponents, let them go ham, and destroy everything for you. And in reality, I got impatient and probably should have reset the world and come back. I didn't. But theoretically, there is a way to do this particular mission, this particular task, without destroying your odds of completing this mission. And it starts with the Clap Freedom Fighters. These 3 here are, well, you're gonna let them live. If you're gonna do this, you're gonna let the Clap Freedom Fighters live. Let them shoot at you while you are standing in front of the target, and they'll destroy the target for you. That is the hope. Now, reality is, I kind of buggered it up before I even got started on this task. And hindsight being 2020, I want to make sure that I acknowledge that this particular task is probably doable, but I personally didn't. So take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. The second bit that I want to kind of acknowledge as being a thing is that because I know it is possible using those means, what follows is technically not the end of the world, but it is something that is slightly disappointing. I'm somebody who wants to do things the right way, and if I have to break my rules to do A or B, then I'm going to unfortunately break my rules. That right there was my first grenade and second. As you can see, they're falling into the abyss. They do not actually blow up. So at this moment I was kind of questioning what was the best solution. So I threw them at the roof, and sure enough they can stick up there as I point directly at my computer screen like people are standing over my shoulder. So knowing that it sticks, I had a little bit of an idea, but then realized that I'm being dumb because the grenades that I had equipped, due to the fact that I just happened to pick them up, was a proximity mine, which will only go off either inside the span of about 2 minutes, or if a enemy steps over it. You can kind of see the problem there. So while Brick rages, this ended up being one of the biggest oopsies of the entire run. Reality is, I'm pretty sure that everything can work better, just that I was too silly to make that happen. Now, I had noticed that this started going kablowy above my head, And as you can see on the bottom left there, just above my level bar, it was steaming or had fire coming out of it. So that showcases in my mind that we had already done damage there. And while the logical side says reset everything, do it all again, we're on episode 37. That is a lot of reprocessing and reworking this to showcase one thing that technically doesn't break all of the rules. And so, due to throwing all those grenades, it is now a no bullets run. Now, what I like about the no bullets run, if I don't have a cannon of any variety, then I'm pretty well safe. If I do, don't press R2. That's about how it rumbles. Okay, that worked way better. I swapped to a sticky grenade. No, I didn't have a sticky grenade, I just had nothing. Swapping to a sticky grenade, to be clear. So knowing that, those end up being a little bit more on the consistent usage side. Now, for the second of these 3 coolant pumps, the idea properly dawned on me, why don't I just let these guys do the job themselves? I don't need to destroy it as long as it gets destroyed. But unfortunately, it was another one of those too little too late moments, because the enemies that could reach this area, that could deal damage to this, had a coding thing that stopped from going around the corner. So I still buggered up. I figured, while I was here, to see what jumping into the abyss was like. I will leave that to your imagination, but in all honesty, in all reality, that's kind of what happened. Now, as far as Borderlands goes, as far as DLC goes, this is one that I personally wish could have been a little longer. Like, how do I want to word this? The other DLC for Borderlands 1 were consistent. You knew what you were getting into the instant that you walked into that particular DLC. But the thing is that as a player, there was a possibility of seeing more. More growth, more character, more development. At least in terms of how it treated Claptrap. And so, I wanted to see more. I wanted the game to show off and say, yeah, this is what we can do with this character. Did it happen? Not entirely. Should it have? Absolutely. And I should have taken that shield. But I was a little preoccupied at that time, apparently. So, we took the Glorious Massacre, and we're gonna finish the job. Now, being realistic about this, I know full well that what I did and how I did it didn't exactly work the way we had hoped. But, food for thought, we got this far. The main game was beaten without the use of any weapons, including grenades. And this being the first time that it has been 100% necessary to throw a grenade is a feat in and of itself. Okay? So, at this point, I got here and realized I was running into the same problem as the last one. And, same idea. I realized if I have to use this, if I'm going to be stuck in this situation, maybe I can do more with it. And so, this kind of became a test, a proof of concept. Tried to get a couple individuals to kind of follow me back here, thinking that if I had a proof of concept, if I could show that it was, in some capacity, possible to do this without the use of the grenades, then it was worth a shot.
Yes!
And that is exactly why. So, technically, it is possible to do this. Reasonable, no. But possible. And if that's what you're aiming for, then I apologize. I had to use grenades on 2, or I did. And that's my reality. I can only own up to it. Now, at this point, we've completed the factory. So, what else is there? Now, for me, I'm a bit of a completionist when it comes to this game.
Attention! Bandits are attacking Tartarus Station. If you play dead, they'll leave you alone.
No, they won't. These are robots. These are not banditos. They... Actually, do they understand what a pulse is? I don't think they'd stop and check for one, so, I mean, we got that going for us, I guess. At this point, we're in the side quest mode. The goal being shut down as many of these clap enemies as possible. Blech. Words are hard. And eventually get to a point where we can complete the side missions prior to facing off against our next boss. Now, reality is that Dr. Ned wasn't exactly a difficult opponent. I think we can all agree on that. He wasn't exactly built for combat. But knowing that he wasn't built for combat is one thing, being able to actually defeat him was something entirely different. And if I'm being honest, they kind of make a laugh out of this later, but I believe his name is Dr. Nakama in Borderlands 2. Was defeated by falling down a flight of stairs, which, oh my god, the claptraps went upstairs. These guys are far more powerful than the original claptrap was. No way, no how. No doubt in my mind. Stairs are their only weakness, right next to getting called bad names and getting shot at, and, well, a myriad of other things. Okay, so, with enemies and whatnot resuming their shady dealings and vacation activities, we have a few more things to sort out. Now, the next major mission is to collect the wired device, which is a absolutely terrible acronym for a wireless device. The wired device is effectively able to rewrite the original claptrap's, oh, here, I'll let Blake tell it, because he's better at that.
You survived. Good for you. Well done. Not that the Hyperion Corporation ever doubted you. We love you and believe in you. Now, Phase 3. The Claptrap Collective operates on a hive mind. Wipe out the head, and the rest will fall. To accomplish this, you'll need to steal the Wireless Information Router Encoding Device, or WIRED for short. This is an unfortunate acronym for a wireless device. I'll have to speak to marketing.
Point being, because they operate on the hive mind, the original is, shall we say, more in control of what's going on. And because the original is so much more in control of what's going on, the original is also, well, if we defeat him, the rest of the angry claptraps will cease to be angry and go back to being their annoying yet somewhat lovable selves. That, at least, is the hope for this mission. But before we do that, we have a little bit of stock to take. We need to collect about 10 bobbleheads. Bobbleheads are just because the number one person who sells things in this particular realm is Marcus from Marcus Munitions. And if we have bobbleheads of Marcus, he will take them instead of actual currency. the quality of the bubble hut, better quality bubblehead, better quality cash in return. So he's quite the collector, apparently. Because, admittedly, I think I've come across a few thousand of them over the years. But yeah, that's kind of how it's rolling in my world. With all of that being said, I would like to say that this next little section is somewhat silly. We have learned about the fact that the claptrap interface is far more potent than we gave it credit for in the main game. It was able to open any door or anything relatively easily. But the thing is that there are few, very few, that could resist the pull of the Claptrap Collective. These become a new class of enemy, the default enemies. The default enemies exist only around the factory, off in the upper right corner. They have none of the Claptrap accessories, and are actively engaged in war against the Claptrap Collective, which I actually kind of like. Up until this point in the game, by my memory, which is hazy at best, there's really not much that showcases that there's infighting in this world. And that is a bit of a shame, because infighting within the, shall we call it, the collectives or the groups, can lead to more diverse storytelling. Be able to say who works best with whom, and so on and so forth. You can see a little bit of this type of mentality come across in games like Mario Kart, where an individual has a rival who is your most commonly villainized character. And I think that's fantastic, because if you can acknowledge who is each character's rival, you get a better understanding of their relationships to one another through it. Now, infighting within this is just more or less what you'd expect. Infighting. People battling each other for the sake of battling each other. And so, in that regard, the default bandits fighting against claptraps makes sense. The claptraps are looking to extend their collective, and the banditos are trying to keep what little sense of self they have left to themselves. It is actually okay. It's better planned out than some of the habits or changes that come up over the course of the games. But we also get a few other ones. Skags will fight the Cromaggots, the armored craws and whatnot, pinchers. I believe that the Skags will also fight spider ants and bandits, but they're just kind of mad at everybody. They're more attuned to being angry with each other. But also, if you look at the use of the spider ants, there is a full mission in the original game devoted to replacing the abdomen of a queen spider ant with a separate queen spider ant, which changed how the collective spider ants in the area reacted. Instead of protecting a region, they became hostile towards it. And so, again, you can get a sense of how they function, as they're, in that particular case, not operating on hive mind or anything of that nature, but operating more in terms of pheromones and like bugs, so to speak, which again reaffirms the habits and decision making of the characters within the world. It is all effectively world building. And for the most part, a lot of us end up getting caught on which is the best solution. For myself, I believe that any detail added for words are hard. World building purposes is fantastic. Because if you miss out on information just because you didn't think, oh yeah, could be a thing, that's fine. The fact that it is there makes the world more believable, makes it more engaging. And so that's kind of where I want to kind of set it, is that world building is not just details for details' sake. Yes, they definitely help with bits and pieces over time, but it's not without intent. Now, to explain what I mean by that, if I were to sit down and play 40 different games, we'll jump from Mario Kart to whatever. If I played 40 different games and every single one of them had certain differences to them, we would say, oh yeah, that's a benefit of gaming. Because all of these characters, all of this world building we receive from these various games are often contradictory, but also work together in some way. Now, the reason I want to bring that up is because contradictory games, the bits that contradict each other are unique world building to that game, that universe. And in the same way, you can use contradictory world building to showcase who likes or doesn't like each other, who works well together, who doesn't. And I think that is something that Borderlands could have leaned more heavily into, was the relationships between the bandits. See, Borderlands 1 has a habit of everybody is everyone's friend, at least as long as they're not yours. So, your group of individuals that gets along with you are the other 3 Vault Hunters, aside from the one you're playing with, the Marcus from Marcus Munitions, you have Scooter, Mad Moxie, like those guys, right? That's it. Everybody else is against you. And sometimes it is nice to see that there is more at stake and more planned out than just everybody's against you. Anyways, coming up next time, we will collect the wired device. Until then, if you like what you see, drop a like, leave a sub. We'll catch you next week. Until then, I hope you have a good one. Excuse me? No, that's not happening.